So I'm finally getting around to watching Hannibal. Let it be said. As far as I'm concerned, there are men in this world who are spectacular, who are masculine beauty personified. And for me, Mads Mikkelsen is one of them. And it isn't that I think he's hot, although I guess it's possible to consider him hot. I think, I'd be happy just to look at him and watch him move. And that could be like a show. Which started me thinking. I mean, it's not like it's not obvious that he is a beautiful man, right? That there's a standard at which his beauty is kind of unquestioned. Which, again, has me thinking about serial unalivers. Serial unalivers. I believe it's interesting to me that a man that beautiful was cast for Hannibal. There's something we're saying about that. It's so strange. Because, you could say what you want about Anthony Hopkins, and I would watch him act the phone book. But he looks more like a hobbit than the epitome of masculine beauty. So there wasn't that whole thing going on. And I feel like, here's my issue. My theory around serial unalivers has always been that it's war on a massive scale, where it's war that creates them. You put people in a position, disable the switch in their humanity that says thou shalt not, and some of them really, really, really develop a taste for it. And or they come home in their trauma, because I do believe that there is something around the idea for a child of their parent having done or been involved in violence. Yes, they're abused, etc., etc. But lots of abused kids do not become serial unalivers. I think war is the answer. I think we remove war from the equation, we don't have as many of those types wandering the earth. We have a couple, mainly. So I'm watching this show, and I'm also like struggling, because one of the things that they kind of do is like, they have a character that plays with the sort of hybristophilia that some people exhibit when it comes to their attraction. I mean, because like she's supposed to be a reporter, but really she's a fan. When it comes to being drawn to people who commit violence, and there is something to be said about us and our glorification of evil. Glorification. I'm not talking about shows where, they've like, oh, let's catch a horrible person. But one thing he is glorious. Hannibal. And that's an interesting choice to make. To make him so appealing. And to sort of, in a way, without our permission, fully with our permission because we're watching the show, put us on his side. Like, we worry that he might get caught. Um, and now I'm going to say something else. That our capacity for compassion for other people has been foundationally has eroded. The foundation, it's just eroded if it ever existed as an American. I believe that there was a time, at least, where we acted as if we cared about some people. But what's becoming clear to me is we don't. And we're now comfortable, showing all the ways in which we don't care about anybody. And people like Hannibal and Dexter and stuff like that, they become wish fulfillment rather than cautionary tales. That's dangerous. It's part of it is that, Hollywood makes bad art. That's part of the issue. The other part is, which is connected, the advent of the anti-hero. Because there was a time when there was always a good guy and always a bad guy, and you were expected to root for the good guy. And then, I'm not saying it was invented in the 70s. This is I'm thinking of the 70s, but I think, it came into its own in the 70s. This idea of the bad guy who's with good reasons, and we invested in him as the protagonist. I feel that that was always gonna be a tricky line to walk in terms of what it would do to culture. And then once we started taking the rest of what the artistry in Hollywood has always been tainted ever since the advent of the casting couch, because that taints the art. And so it slowly starts to fail and fade and not be as good as it used to be. But the other part of it is that the corporates got their hands on the pulse of creativity in Hollywood. And so you have the two things. I think if artists were still in charge of Hollywood, and if they'd course corrected earlier the casting couch junk, that we would not be on this side of the line, because artists see things differently. We see what is not yet there. We see that in ourselves. We see it in other people. We also see it for the culture, because that is what we're doing. What artists are doing when they create, they are commenting on the culture. And now you've got like dudes in suits and pocket protectors deciding what gets made, and obsessed with owning everything. They decide what gets made. And so they took the anti-hero thing, did not really understand it, did not really understand the path that it should take, and started picking the wrong people to tell the wrong stories. I don't think Hannibal is a story that should have been being told. I'm gonna watch it anyway, because Mads Mikkelsen is one of those men I describe as the epitome of masculine beauty. And plus it kind of has Hugh Dancy in it and Lawrence Fishburne. And what is not to love about Lawrence? And I don't know how far I'll get before I start to feel too corrupted to watch it.